Hello
Recording
and
in progress.
yeah, they got a voice now. Hello and welcome to the Josh and Tyler Show, the Tyler and Josh Show, the show where we talk about whatever we want to talk about because it's our show. Today, we're talking about some cage rage, some psychedelic, right up there, cage rage, some ABCD cage rage, that vampire's kiss. You never know what you're gonna get. You
I'm
might
a
get a taken
vampire. I'm a
knockoff. You
vampire.
might get
I'm a
leaving
vampire.
Las Vegas. I really like Nicolas Cage. And today we're talking about probably the most suiting Nicolas Cage double feature in history, minus like maybe The Rock and Rage. Mandy and The Color Out of Space. Rage is a taken knockoff.
Yeah, I know. It had one good freak out and the rest is nice.
So I'm a huge fan of both these films. Tyler, how are you? Are you a fan of this Nicolas Cage fellow? What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I could be a fan of Nicolas Cage just based on all of those YouTube compilations.
Yep.
Just pick your poison on which one. Nick Cage losing his shit or how to make a Nick Cage movie in 5 minutes or less. That was from that's a CinemaSin spinoff over like how to make a certain movie by a certain director like M. Night Shyamalan or Michael Bay. But they did Nicolas Cage as a special feature by saying, now you must make an impression. And what great way to make an impression than a good old-fashioned freak out. And probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite, is from Honeymoon in Vegas, where he's at the airport and Ben Stein is holding up the entire line. Look, there's a situation. My fiance is kidnapped. Well, I'm trying to book this one flight 2 weeks in advance. You're not even flying today? No, the travel guide said specifically, you're all holding up this line. We are all flying today. Please, sir, if you don't stay calm, then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail. Just get your ticket and move on, okay? Get your goddamn ticket and move on.
Yeah, I like that.
I've never seen the movie. I've only seen that one clip.
I
But
watched it a while back. I mean, I always liked the Vampire's Kiss freak out, and I always enjoyed The Rock, or where he's talking about music or whatever, like Con Air's classic. I mean, there's so much to love about Nicolas Cage. But I mean, Leaving Las Vegas is very good, and then you got oh my goodness, Raising Arizona from the Coens, which is one of his better performances, which is a fun one.
Joe with him and Ty Sheridan, that is super underrated. Like a very laid back drama with some dark, grittier moments that kind of reminded me of Out of the Furnace. If anything, I think it came out the exact same year too. Joe was like the good version of Out of the Furnace. It actually had the character development, it had the relationships. When it switches to like a gritty, realistic action movie, it actually feels warranted. And the fact that the villain of the movie wasn't even an actor, he was a real life homeless drunk that got in such a natural performance and fitting with the character, unfortunately, was found dead before the premiere. Apparently, he like fell in a lake and because he was too drunk, had drowned himself or something like that. But the performance Cage gave in Joe was super laid back and nuanced. I just sat there. I'm like, okay, this is back to the Leaving Las Vegas days where he could hold back his emotions. And even in Leaving Las Vegas, he does have a couple freakouts, but I mean, suicidal alcoholic, it would be pretty weird if he didn't. I almost forgot. One of my high school teachers actually showed me Matchstick Men in class because it was about con artists. My teacher wanted to demonstrate the abilities of being able to deceive people through manipulation and persuasion. But needless to say, we were all loving the fact that Nick Cage was bombing as someone who plays Tourette's syndrome. My current boss has Tourette's, and if we're judging based on the people I've met in real life, that's not really hitting the mark. But in any case, as inauthentic as it is, it's fucking entertaining as hell, especially when he's going to the pharmacy. Hey, buddy, you ever heard of line? You ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being tell you, piss, blood? And then he finds out that he wasn't actually receiving medication. He was receiving PMS tablets.
Nicolas Cage is special. If we're going with favorite con artist movie, I go with 2011's The Art of the Steal from Kurt Russell.
Really?
It's actually really good. It's really fantastic. If you have not seen The Art of the Steal with Kurt Russell, it's about con artists and heists and just like everything under the sun. It's like it's better than the Ocean's 11 sequels.
Really?
Because the first Ocean's 11 from 1960 I really like. I know people don't love that. And then there's the 2001 one, which I really like. And then Ocean's 12 and 13 and 8, and they happen. I love The Art of the Steal. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Let's jump into let's start with The Color Out of Space. Because I want to talk about Mandy a bit more.
Yeah,
Mandy is weirder.
likewise.
Color Out of Space is based on Lovecraft. Now, Tyler, we watched a while back. We watched Reanimator by Lovecraft. If you remember that film.
That was Lovecraft.
That was H.P. Lovecraft. Different interpretations. Heads up, people, there will be spoilers in these movies. Not heavy spoilers, but there will be spoilers because we can't really talk about this without talking about spoilers for either of these films. Because otherwise, it's just like there's fun colors. That's all we can talk about. What do you think of H.P. Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space?
Well, I'd heard a fair bit amount of buzz over it just because it was a Nick Cage adaptation of a Lovecraft story. And also it was Richard Stanley's first movie he ever made, probably since I was born, because Hollywood had screwed him over big time during production of The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's one of the most famous and well-known cases of studio interference. And it makes you feel so much more grateful that there are artists like Terry Gilliam who fight back against the system and through the hard work and perseverance, get in the final product that they want. Unless they work with the Weinsteins, in that case, they're completely screwed. But and it's that
Tarantino's screwed now because he worked with them for so long, or
well, I feel like Tarantino, Kevin Smith, and a couple others were the rare exceptions because audiences loved their work that much. And also with Hayao Miyazaki stuff, Weinstein, when he acquired rights for Princess Mononoke, said, "Hey, this is good, but can we cut some stuff?" And rumor has it Miyazaki sent them a katana that was inscripted "no cuts." So there are cases like that. Bong Joon-ho had such a reputation that when Weinstein tried to cut Snowpiercer, people were that pissed and complained about it. And he's like, "Fine, but you get a limited distribution. That's what you get." And I mean, because of all the star power, it didn't really affect the movie all that much. So people still went out and saw it. But Richard Stanley just didn't have that reputation. He didn't have that big of a fan base, and it damaged a good chunk of his career for the worse. And it's that reason that makes me wish I had enjoyed this movie a hell of a lot more than I did. But like for the first half hour, I liked the initial setup. It was decent the way they explored the family dynamic between the siblings and the parents. I like that the arrival of the meteor is basically more of a metaphor for the family dilemmas that they're experiencing. Their mother is maybe going through cancer, maybe not. I don't remember it being super explicit, but in either way, her health is so poor that her daughter, even though she's acting out towards everyone, is practicing Wiccan witchcraft in an attempt to heal her mother's illness and therefore heal everybody else from the psychological pain. So she has this complex back and forth dynamic of going from rebellious and just completely unlikable, because there were so many scenes where I wanted to punch that girl in the face. And then in the next scene, she would be completely sympathetic, loving, and caring because she has calmed down. She's collected all of her thoughts. Madeleine Arthur, I think is the actress's name. Her performance felt the most grounded based on her ability to switch from all of those emotions, and her expressions, her body language. They were completely spot on. And I appreciate that Stanley was trying to form horror from the things we don't see. Because like when the youngest sees the meteor, he just sits there and whistles at the well. And I like that Stanley draws out the shots of the well to make us anticipate whether or not something is going to jump out. And if so, what's it going to look like? There were a couple times where the end results were disappointing because a few reviews have said it, and it is kind of true. They should have had more of a budget in regards to some of the special effects that they created. Like when it's just the color purple and pink shining on the house and on everybody, those scenes were creepy because their expressions were heightened by the color and the shot sizes and the interpretations that come with it. Like when it starts fucking with their faucets and the TV and they have absolutely no idea what's going on. And it leads to that psychological thing of, did the meteor just mess with that by accident? Or is there some entity that's creating all this stuff on purpose? There's some interpretation towards it for a little while until the transformations start to happen. And those transformations were fucking brutal. They
Yep.
were gory without being overwhelming. They don't show you everything within that shot. They just show you enough to feel the emotions and to have you squirming in your seat, especially we'll call it a morph. We don't want to spoil that because we don't want to haunt you guys.
A morph, yeah.
We don't want to haunt you guys after you watch this video, but
yeah,
in any case, like
morph is the one you're referring to, right?
That is exactly what I'm
attic
going
morph
with.
was like barn morph was like okay. Attic morph was like holy crap.
Well, barn morph was creepy in its own right.
Yeah, 100%.
The imagination on the effects and the practical puppetry and makeup prosthetics that they put on the actors was super authentic, and the actors portraying them with all this heavy makeup still are super convincing and portraying the immense amount of terror, knowing that they're absolutely fucked either way. And Nicolas Cage has to make that ultimate choice that, in my opinion, pretty much sums up the themes of the movie, that there are trials and tribulations in life where people are just dealt a fair hand without any purpose, without any justification. And sometimes there's really nothing you can do about it. And when Nick Cage takes that shotgun in the attic, you know good and hell well that he doesn't want to do this, but he knows that there really is no other way to go about it. And he's kind of sort of doing them a favor by putting them out of their misery.
I have a crazy film theory about it, which we'll get to in a minute. But I like how we start out with this film, how Elliot Knight is just walking around surveying water, and he runs into Lavina. And one thing I want people in horror movies to stop doing, I'm going to be putting up my review of the Fear Street trilogy, which wasn't bad. I enjoyed some of it. I do think a lot of it falls in the cliche. And here's something you are not going to be surprised to hear me say. Part 2 rips off a lot of Sleepaway Camp, straight up.
Really?
Yeah, they straight up rip off like two or three of the.
Did they rip off the twist?
They rip off the bees in the bathroom stall. They just do that, like straight up, exactly shot for shot from Sleepaway Camp. And there's a couple other things, and I'm just like, wow, they really like Sleepaway Camp. But well,
I mean,
people in movies, if you see a witching symbol or an evil book that's covered in barbed wire, or there's a symbol or like an evil leprechaun, just leave. Just don't read it. Don't leave. Don't stay. Like, this is going to solve all your problems. I actually think I like that all the characters in this. Tommy Chong has a fun little bit in the shack.
Tommy Chong was so enjoyable to watch. He was he gave me the most amount of entertainment value. He was basically playing himself, openly eccentric and kind of cynical towards everything, but kind-hearted towards everyone. And he's kind of the smartest character of the movie because that philosophy of what happens, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. He's been saying that from the very get-go. And he goes about it in such a nonchalant way because even though he has a limited amount of time, he's going to enjoy it how he sees fit. And that part was interesting to see. And plus, Tommy Chong, even when he tries to or not, he just makes you smile. Like, yeah,
I mean, Oliver and Company might be his best role. I mean, I like Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke, but I like Oliver and Company.
Josh, that was Cheech.
Oh, well, there's a couple of them.
Chong did that 70s show where it's just like, I sat next to God on the bus once, man.
Oh, he's the narrator. Okay.
He told me the meaning of life, and then he gave me a pretzel.
But yeah, the one performance I think I appreciate the most, and the reason I actually went out to see this movie, is Brendan the Kid Meyer from the movie Trivia Schmodown, the Canadian actor. He plays the stoner brother in this. He's been in the Schmodown ever since I can remember, and he's part of Shazam and William Bibiani. So when I heard there was a movie coming out, I looked at my boss and I said, we got to get this movie. Because it looks really cool. And he's like, oh yeah, we'll get that. I mean, we got about the same attendance as Mandy, and people came out and we had it for a few days, and I'm really glad we got it because, man, this thing's crazy. So the daughter there decides to practice witchcraft, which is a bad idea. And like, she's so like, I've seen a lot of movies where they practice witchcraft and stuff, and she's so amateur at it. I'm surprised anything actually becomes of it, like,
well, and that's assuming she actually caused any of it, because
like, I don't think she did. I think she was just doing it as a hobby because she was bored in the woods or something. But when this meteorite hits, as you were saying, the kid just goes and stares at the thing. Like, that's just sort of nuts. I like that the media comes and we get this sort of big frenzy. And I do think that Julian Hillard's performance as a kid is particularly commendable, because kid actors can be really bad or really good, but I think this is exemplary. And I don't think this movie is as much original as we think it is, because when I look at this movie, again, it's based on a Lovecraft book from a long time ago, but Annihilation did this exact same concept where all nature morphs into itself.
Yeah.
And I think it was done well until the ending. And again, I think that's what Color Out of Space does, well until the ending, because you're sort of expecting more punch, but you're not getting that. It is an adaptation of the Dunwich Horror, which is very, very famous, which I don't think I've ever read, but I know a lot of people who have read it. I like Nicolas Cage in this, and my theory is this. I think when H.P. Lovecraft wrote this, I think he was going through a divorce. So he used basically this meteorite to separate himself from him and his family. And these kids, and my theory is in the film that these kids are not his kids. They might be from his second marriage. So he's feeling sort of detached from his entire family. So they use a sort of horror element to do that. That's sort of what I gather if I was diving way too deep for this film, because there's that level of him sitting around watching TV, that disconnect, him trying to just sort of do what he can, but he's very uncomfortable everywhere he is. And at the end, when we get Nicolas Cage's sort of final moments where he's sitting at the table, there is that full disconnect from his entire family, and that where he has to go make the attic decision. That I think that's finalizing his divorce, and then I think he dies alone. I think that's what this film is trying to say, but because I know Lovecraft did go through a divorce, and so that's my theory on this. So he wrote what he was thinking through this alter ego lens, through this sort of supernatural, strange oddity of pink, blue, and orange. You know,
that's a very interesting theory. I didn't actually look into the personal details of Lovecraft because I've never been that motivated to check out his stuff. I know a lot of people are influenced by him. Like every time you see the Rick and Morty intro, there's Cthulhu because Dan Harmon loves HP's stuff, and everyone's like, when are we going to get more Cthulhu? And I just sat there and went, you know, they're fucking teasing you. And even when he gives it to you, you're not going to be satisfied with any of it, right? Because you know, fanboys nowadays. What can I say?
I've been watching the new season of Rick and Morty, and I really like it. But also, Lovecraft Country is very good. I really think it's fantastic. It only got one season.
I still got to check that out.
It's really well done. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, but the kid definitely did do a good job. It's a little easy to make the youngest kid the one who's the most entranced with the supernatural stuff. I mean, it goes way back to the little girl from Poltergeist and how she kind of became basically became the central character of that franchise for as long as she was around anyways, because
I'd like to go off on a side note here.
Tragic.
On the side note of Poltergeist, which I haven't seen, but I've seen enough to know that I know it's not for me. Like that's I think Spielberg needs to direct more horror. I think that's where Spielberg,
I would love to see that,
because Spielberg is running around doing Munich, and he's making the BFG and a bunch of stuff, and he did Ready Player One, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with those films, and some of them are very good, and you know, they have historical significance or they're based upon a very popular list. But I would love to see Spielberg do horror, like full horror later in his career, because I think it would be disturbing. I think it would be some of the best horror we ever get in the last 10 years. And I just think Spielberg needs to do that. Give me more of what I like.
I haven't seen him direct anything horror since Poltergeist, so that would be something there.
Because he nailed that.
And no, folks, I'm not correct.
Foray, you know.
And no, folks, I'm not correcting myself on. I'm not correcting myself on saying that he directed that, because let's be honest.
But he understood what the film was, and he helped craft it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know. It's just everyone's like, you know, Toby Hooper directed it. I'm just like, yeah, in writing. Just like how Richard Donner directed The Goonies.
Well, yeah, this movie is super atmospheric and very strange. And I like the relationship between the water guy and the daughter there. I think it's a little odd and strange, and it definitely suits the
Yeah.
film. When we start to get to the weird stuff, that's when I think for me it starts to really draw me into the film. I don't know. For you, did you like the family dynamic, or do you like all the weird shit that happens?
Um, I kind of bounce back and forth between it because the thing that everyone remembers most, regardless of whether they like the movie or not, is the fact that Nicolas Cage is back, and he's Nicolas Cage in every way, shape, and form. And I appreciate the fact that he's going for a Jack Torrance type of character that starts off incredibly nuanced. And Cage is excellent in the restrained side of the character, and there are definitely some implications that he might just be doing it as an act to not disappoint his wife and kids and offer a little bit more stability in this more secluded lifestyle that they're trying to live. And how when he snaps at everyone later on and so abruptly, it might be just to lash out at the fact that, yeah, there are some flaws about his family members that he's been holding back on for a while. And now that this meteorite has come and made things even more stressful, he's finally unloading on people. But the problem I had with his over the top outbursts, as entertaining and kind of hilarious as they were, like when he gets in the car and of course the car doesn't start because it's a horror movie, it's just like, fuck you, you piece of shit. And I sat there and
How
went,
many times have you done that
please.
when you're mad at your car? I have done that many a times.
Yeah, but
Different
it's Nicolas
words, different
Cage doing
phrases,
that.
depends on that. But no, cars are so frustrating.
Yeah, I know, but like it's Nicolas Cage doing that. He just elevates that type of scene.
What,
But
Nicolas Cage isn't allowed to get angry in real life, only in fake life?
you know what I mean? Hell, there's an action movie coming up where he plays himself and he has to rescue, I don't know, his family from evil billionaire Pedro Pascal or something like that.
That
who's
sounds
his big
freaking
fan.
amazing. I know.
It
We
sounds
missed a
like the
couple.
Nicholas. It sounds like the Nicolas Cage version of Misery, which that sounds awesome.
I mean, we missed that one about the amusement park, the Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff thing, and Pig's coming up, which looks freaking dumb. Can't wait.
I don't know. I saw Stuckman's double feature of it, and he said that it was actually more of a. He said it was a drama as opposed to an action movie, and how it's.
Go watch it. I don't care.
Yeah, of course we're gonna go watch it. Why wouldn't we? Hell, next week we might actually be able to be in the same room for once, which I would love that opportunity.
You know what? We can definitely make that happen. We've been doing it so long online. I didn't think about it. All these colors out of space are messing with my mind. I tried to wear a red shirt to match the color tone of Mandy and Color Out of Space today. So,
but yeah, like the problem
nuts and the kid staring down the well and the dog disappears and just like all these different things. And then there's the barn morph, and I was like, holy crap. Like there's not a lot of it, but it's slow and it's brooding and it's like I will say, for one, I'm not much for slow burns unless they pay off. And I don't know if this movie pays off, but this slow burn worked for me because when it hit, you know? But between the sequences, it was a tiny bit little dry, but not too much for me. I still enjoyed watching it.
Well, here's the thing. I actually thought the horror aspects of the movie, when they're going for the big reveal and the payoff from all the buildup, I feel like it moves at too fast a pace for me to really get invested into it, because I actually do like horror as more of a slow burn, because there's the anticipation, there's the dread. You have characters going from one location to another, and you get those long shots of the location they're about to enter, cut to them like being scared, but knowing that they have to go in there to get those answers. You don't get those kinds of moments. Everything just happens without much buildup or setup. And it was hard for me to really get scared by any of this. And also, going back to some of the horror cliches, like when the sister and brother decide, yeah, we probably should get out of the house, I felt like it was a little too contrived for the excuses as to why they would stay there. Like the horse ran off, the car didn't start, the boyfriend happens to be far off in this one location. I do like Elliot Knight as the boyfriend, and I wasn't going to point this out, but I was amazed that he, spoilers, didn't die. I mean, how often does that happen?
Someone lived through a weird, strange Lovecraft movie. No one lives, unless you're like the anti-hero.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, he's the most straight-laced out of all of them, the most consistent, morally ground person, and maybe that is why he survives in the end. Although there are a couple cops who don't make it out okay, but you don't know anything about them. You don't give a shit about
I would
them.
like to I've got the IMDb up because I wanted to get the names right. I always have the names up for these shows. So Lucifer, the cat, plays G-Spot, the cat. That's the name of the actual cat name. Also, there are 3 Sam the dogs and 2 Comet the horse.
That I can believe.
Afro, Layla, and Mina. And then you have Ulysses and Ibaga as the horse. But G-Spot the cat, we're just gonna highlight that for a minute there.
I forgot that was even the cat's name.
Like, who named that cat? Like, what the heck?
Probably the owner's boyfriend, who might have been a complete dipshit. But in any case, like, I'm not surprised that there are more than one dogs or cats to play a particular pet character. I mean,
just it's like there are 3 Olsen twins.
It's the same reason they swap out. Yeah, it's like the Olsen twins. They swap them out for child labor purposes, and same thing with cats and dogs. I think Pet Sematary had 2 or 3 cats to portray that particular one. Which I will say this: even though Pet Sematary was not a good movie, that cat was one of the creepier aspects.
I mean, people like the '90s one, but it didn't really appeal to me. Like, if you're gonna go Stephen King, you got to be like, I like Carrie. I like Carrie. I can't even name another. I don't love The Shining. I mean, I think.
Well, don't forget,
good, but I don't.
Don't forget, Stand by Me is Stephen King.
Yeah, so is the Green Mile, which I think might be his best.
And Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, I prefer his more dramatic things. I think it gets sort of cliched when you get into to the horror elements. But
it's ungodly cliched. I'm amazed that I like Dr. Sleep more than The Shining, but I think it's because Mike Flanagan switched some stuff around because he had the difficult task of pleasing fans of the movie while also pleasing the Stephen King purists, including Stephen King himself. Because apparently King liked the movie. Then again, he thought Pet Sematary, the remake, was scary, which it wasn't.
Yeah, but I want to talk about the poster. I think this is this is a piece of art. You've seen this poster, yes?
Oh, absolutely. The colors coming out of his
we'll just put it up on screen here for
neon pink and purple.
I love this poster. This is so well done. Like, what the heck is this? I mean, it definitely takes aspects of the morphine and all the characters. But it is a crazy poster.
Yeah,
it's sort of the best. If you're gonna do a weird, freaky horror movie, at least it's not a guy with an axe or just a picture of a meteorite on a black frame. At least it looks really weird. Like, you know what you're getting into. Like, it advertises 100%. Exactly what you're getting into, whatever this is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, whoever made that poster, deserves a raise.
Oh yeah,
it's like fantastic. All the problems we have with movie posters, none of them are in that exact version because it gives you the atmosphere. It gives you the level of performances that these characters are going to give. It gives you the style with how neon it is. And I think a lot of people who saw Mandy and liked it looked at that and looked at the same color scheme and they thought they were getting into the same type of film. And some of the producers on Mandy made Color Out of Space too. So, you know, not to say that there weren't any similarities. There definitely were a few, but they were few and far between.
Well, yeah. Let's just jump over to Mandy since you mentioned it there.
Please do.
What do you think of this Mandy film? Nicolas Cage, Andrea Riseborough, and some chainsaws. What are your thoughts?
Well, funny thing, when I first saw it back in 2018, I thought it was good. Like, the second half of the movie was exactly what I wanted and what I thought I was going to get going in, as opposed to the first half, which upon first viewing felt like it dragged for far too long. There were a little too many awkward, dramatic pauses. I didn't think Riseborough gave a good enough performance to really care that much about Mandy. I didn't think the backstory they gave was enough, and especially for Nicolas Cage trying to avenge her. But thankfully, this is one of many cases where you really do have to watch it a second time to fully judge the movie as a whole. I love the overall style that, I'm going to try and get this guy's name right, Panos Cosmatos. This is only his second movie, but you would not have guessed. Like, his dad was a director, so he does know some skills of the trade. His dad is the director of Tombstone with Kurt Russell. Fun little fact.
Did you see Beyond the Black Rainbow?
I did not. I know that
Highly recommend it.
Cosmatos.
Highly recommend
Okay,
it.
that I wanted to hear because people are really split about Black Rainbow. Like some
I
people
think it's
love it, some
freaking
people
weird,
hate it.
man. Like, I don't want to
Oh, I
spoil
know it's
anything,
fucking
but it's
weird.
strange and bizarre, and I love it. It's like a perfect weirdness, and it's you really just have to see it. I can't. There's nothing else I can say without spoiling it.
Yeah, he has this unique style that blends mainstream, art house, and avant-garde because, yeah, believe it or not, there's a difference between art house and avant-garde that feels so seamless and so accessible. I've never seen a director blend mainstream and art house since Steven Soderbergh or Steve McQueen. Very few
Which
filmmakers
Steve
have that.
McQueen? Modern Steve McQueen or Steve McQueen from The Great Escape? Because there's two Steve McQueens, and it's confusing my brain.
The one that's still alive.
The one that's still alive. Thank you for clarifying that.
I really didn't think I needed to clarify that.
Well, no, when I
think
Steve McQueen, I think The Great Escape. He also directed a few films too, so that's where
yeah,
my brain
I know,
goes.
but like Steve McQueen also is an Oscar-winning director for like 12 Years a Slave, Widows, Shame, a few other things, which are good. Don't get me wrong, but
I enjoy 12 Years a Slave.
Cosmatos is one of the few directors who blends all these traits together because he doesn't give a shit about what happens if the chances you take absolutely fail, because that's the reason some directors don't go full on out, or at least have stopped going full on out, like Francis Ford Coppola. He used to be great, and now I don't even know what he is at this point. But
what has Francis Ford Coppola did lately?
He did something called Twixt, which was like some artsy horror movie with Elle Fanning and Val Kilmer.
He's produced a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and like, I mean, dude's busy with the winery too, so there's that about him.
Oh, the last thing I saw him in was that Tetro movie.
Was that any good?
Nah, it was okay. It's from 2009 or something.
I was gonna say it had been that long.
He produced The Bling Ring, which is a blemish on anyone's record.
Well, yeah, because his daughter's the one who made it. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Oh, and like Sofia Coppola is a good filmmaker.
She did a really good job with. I think her best stuff was On the Rocks, or again, people really like Lost in Translation. So
they like. There are a few people that like Somewhere too. I actually appreciate it for what it is. It's slow as hell and can be boring sometimes, but that is what they're going for. They want you to experience that along with the characters. But
what was that other one she did?
She did Marie Antoinette. She did the Beguiled remake.
The Beguiled, yeah, that was the one that people really like.
For the most part, anyways.
My question is, did Emma Watson just give up acting? I literally haven't heard from her.
I haven't seen her do anything
in like 2011. That's the last thing I saw.
No, she did Little Women.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Like everyone gave her crap for being the least interesting of the four, which it's not her fault that she was written that way. But like, she was good in it.
That's Louise Elcott's problem that she's the least interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
She played Joe the oldest, right?
No, that's Ronan.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but if you give someone a non-interesting role and expect them to be interesting, good luck with that, unless you're Nicolas Cage, specifically in Mandy. How's that segue work?
Like, why are you guys so surprised that David Harbour was that fucking awful in Black Widow? It's not his fault that the character was a damn laughing stock. Fuck, he was one of the worst Marvel characters ever.
I haven't seen Black Widow yet, but I've heard it's all right. I mean,
it started off strong. It started off strong and different from any Marvel movie. If anything, it felt as gritty as a Marvel Netflix show. And then it started treading into familiar territory. It tried so hard to rip off the Russo brothers without knowing how to do that. Kind of like how Patty Jenkins tried to rip off Zack Snyder with Wonder Woman in regards to the style of the movie. And yeah, she was fine with that. Kate Shortland with this one, she's just not an action director. That part really disappointed me.
Oh, they should have given it to Lynn Ramsey. She would have done a great job.
Or Kathy Yan, who made Birds of Prey. I mean, the action was like
wasn't bad. The action was really good. I just think the story.
The action was like 11 out of 10.
Because for the story was studio interference, as I call it.
Oh, well, don't get me wrong. The story was interfered with, but I appreciated the fact that it was simple to follow and wasn't
Yeah.
demanding all that much. And Black Widow has a story that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't demand much, but it meanders for so long.
Well, see, here's my thing with Disney movies now. Any Marvel movies or anything like that, I've seen so many Marvels, I've seen so many remakes, I've seen so many, and I know they're going to go to Disney Plus in 8 months, and I can wait 8 months to see these movies because I don't need to see them. Disney has killed all hype for me to go to the theater. Like the last big Disney movie I was hyped to go to the theater for was Endgame because the final Endgame because that was like the big finale. You had to see it on the big screen with the crowd. But now they're all so small, and until the next big finale of like in 10, 15 years when we have Blade and Scarlet Witch and Black Widow. I don't know if she'll come back. Who knows? I mean, no one is truly dead in the MCU.
Well, they're giving it to Florence Pugh. That goes without saying.
Or whoever, Black Widow and Captain America. I don't feel the need to go to the theater to see a Disney movie. I know this is a side tangent, but they made a perfectly cheap streaming service. I pay for it. We call it a day, and I can see all the Disney movies, and I wait till they come along, and then I don't feel so.
Yeah, but
cheated.
Here's the thing: I'm not paying $30 for it. I mean, at least with a theater, you're getting the cheaper and technically best experience you can possibly get out of it.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I don't mind waiting the 6-8 months to get Black Widow. I don't mind at all because I don't mind to get Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness. I'll wait.
I have too much of the cabin fever or COVID fever, whatever the fuck you want to call it now.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm willing to sit for fucking anything. Like I said, old is probably giving away its biggest secrets in those 10-second trailers in between commercials, but it still looks like a great concept. And
Old looks
like
interesting. I know. I'll probably go see that one because I really enjoyed Split, and I know a lot of people didn't love it, but I think Glass was a fairly good finale to a good.
It was okay
trilogy there, and Bruce Willis tried. I really like that man, and I like when he tries. I mean, the last time I liked Bruce Willis before that was like either Looper, which I really liked, or I really liked him in the remake of Death Wish. I know that was super unpopular, but I like the remake of Death Wish a lot. I own it. I've watched it a bunch. It's a pretty good movie.
All right, then.
But moving back to Mandy, we go on tangents. It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Exactly.
I love the poster. It's crazy. It does the whole thing. It tells you exactly what it is. But we get to see Nicolas Cage and his wife sitting around doing their thing, daily life, watching some crazed preacher on TV, hanging out in their little house that I imagine Nicolas Cage built with his own 2 wrists. He doesn't even need hands to build a log cabin. And it's a very chill, mellow life. And one day his wife goes out for a walk, and this movie doesn't actually have a lot of plot, which I love. His wife goes out for a walk. A cult leader drives by and says, "I want her." And we realize there's a string of missing girls linked to this area. And so he hires a bunch of weirdos to kidnap her, and he tries to kill Nicolas Cage. And then Nicolas Cage goes rage. That's pretty much the setup here. I like their little back and forth with the family and such. When you're doing a simple movie, we'll take, for example, one I watched recently, which I don't know if I hate or if I like, or I can't tell. I watched The Tomorrow War on Amazon Prime with Chris Pratt, and I thought that there was a lot of good stuff in it, but I also thought the setup was, I could care less. I could care less about the setup of the characters. Like I'm not going to reveal any spoilers, but he sees that there's a problem. He looks at his daughter. He has one cute scene where they're digging for vaccines, which I don't know has anything to do with the rest of the film, but it's really cute. And she doesn't want her dad to go off to war because he's drafted to fight in these tomorrow wars. And the whole setup for me is throwaway toss. I'm not interested in it. I would have rather had you just like Live, Die, Repeat or Edge of Tomorrow, whatever you want to call it, literally jumped right in the action and explained everything later. And I think that's what Tomorrow War should have done. But for me, this one where we get the slow build with Nicolas Cage and his wife works extremely well. I like that. I like that little bit. It's really quaint. We get to understand who they are. They're independent, but they're together. Like there's just a lot going on. And I really like what the beginning has to offer here. What do you think of this opening?
Well, one thing that's always stuck with me was the way Cosmatos tells this story visually in a way that's an aesthetic choice, but it also feels like a natural thing for the characters to do, to go through these prolonged periods without speaking. Because in the first half, the relationship between Mandy and Red was so soft spoken. And it feels strange at first in a good way, because they're both trying desperately to find some peace in their lives because of they, as you said before, Red definitely built that house himself. I mean, they established that by him being a lumberjack. So they definitely chose that choice of location for them to start a new life. And you look at certain clues like the scar on Mandy's eye, the story about her father, or the fact that Red doesn't take a drink until after her death, that makes it clear both of them have experienced certain traumatic events either on their own or with each other in their relationship. Maybe they have experienced some rough times with alcohol and drug use, and they're trying to sober up and stay as far away from society as they can so they don't give into any of the temptations. They don't just love each other, they need each other in order to keep moving forward. And that use of silence and speech within the cult members demonstrates to the audience who has the power. In this case, it's Father Jeremiah, who is played excellently by Linus Roach.
He's so good.
Linus Roach is an actor you see as a side character in so many different shows. He was one of the prosecutors in Law and Order, and he was great in that. He was one of the best characters in Homeland, because that was the first show I ever saw him in, and I loved him in that as well. And he's the same thing. He's the same kind of character in all of these shows. He's straight-laced. He's the most consistently morally ground character who is struggling with the fact that even though he has friends and comrades who do the right thing and are excellent at their jobs, they're willing to take more risks. They're willing to hurt more people in order to do the better good. And of course, he sits there and is skeptical and gives that stare that says, what the fuck are you doing, in all of his shows. And he's great in that. But I love that he gets to be as over the top as a villain as you could possibly get, in a way that feels so natural. The amount of silence within cult members shows the amount of influence he has over them, especially with the women who either silently submit to him either out of fear or because they're perfectly content with his leadership. It keeps changing back and forth. The older lady is definitely content, but the younger lady is just too afraid to say anything, like especially when they're drugging Mandy with the fucking scorpion and the wasp.
That is a crazy little bit of a scene there.
And I'll talk more about that later. But
I want to talk about his neighbor, Bill Duke, the vegetarians Arnold Schwarzenegger eats for breakfast. In Commando, I eat vegetarians for breakfast.
That was
Commandos. Commandos for breakfast. Yeah, that's the guy. Like when I saw that, I was like, it's that guy. It's the guy who didn't fight in the hotel room.
Wait, he's the guy who says, fuck you, asshole.
Yeah, that guy. I love that guy.
Damn it.
He's the best. Bill Duke is so cool. Like, he doesn't get a lot of cred for his stuff, but like every time he's on screen, you remember him.
Absolutely. He has that cold and calculating but still calm stare towards him that just makes him seem so iconic. And he's so laid back talking about the bikers who, again, I'm going to talk about later on in the movie. The story that he has. And just how dry his tone is as he's describing it gives you the impression that he's seen darker shit than Red ever has. And it also ties into him being the reluctant friend who's just like, hey, I'm going to help you, but you're probably going to get fucked either way.
Yeah, he has a special crossbow. I like that he gives him like a special weapon. He's like the guy from Zelda. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Like, it'll kill something. And they pay that off. But I love that Bill Duke is there, you know. I like that. Then, so Father Jeremiah just summons a bunch of weird alien demon bikers from somewhere. I didn't question this too hard. I would also like to mention that,
dude, I have my own theory on that.
Cooties and this film, it's produced by Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood is specializing in producing horror.
Well, I mean, dude's become a serial killer in so many low-budget slashers, and don't get me wrong,
he's so good in Sin City. So
dude's probably found his calling. Oh yeah, that's true. That is kind of where it all started.
I mean, but yeah, produced by Elijah Wood. I just love it. But yeah, what do you think of these crazy alien bikers that he summons from black goo?
Okay, here's something I want to talk about when I saw the movie again a couple weeks ago, and it it was kind of an epiphany I had during that weird moment with the Tiger King dude. Because there's that in the first half of the movie, Red has the tiger shirt and he wears it when Mandy dies. And then later on, when he goes to that drug king, he's got the tiger in the cage and he lets it out. So obviously, there's some symbolism involved there about Red unleashing his inner pain and his inner feelings. I went into this expecting a simple B movie plot with a lot of artsy style, and there's obviously that. But here's the question I have for you. What do you think the religious interpretations of the movie are? Because like Jeremiah is obviously the kind of villain who believes God has chosen him to fulfill what he decides is his destiny.
Yes, I have a theory.
He thinks he deserves. Hold on. And he enjoys every despicable act about it. But I think he's a metaphor for Satan, judging by the fact that he has the supernatural ability to summon a demonic biker gang with this magic whistle. And they're fixed on this fucked up brand of LSD that allows everyone who takes it to be much more physically imposing, but everyone loses their humanity except for Red when he takes it. If anything, he gets all of the premonitions that leads him to the locations that are his only way of tracking people down. And of course, there are the animated sequences that first time I saw it, I thought they added a lot to the creepy, surreal atmosphere, but weren't in it enough. But then on second viewing, that's when it hit me that they're either premonitions or dream sequences of Mandy's spirit trying to get him to wake up and discover his purpose of hunting down these creatures down. It also makes me wonder if there's some religious entity that got this cult to kill Mandy so that Red would go after him and eliminate all of them one by one, because once he does, I don't think I'm giving anything away that he succeeds in killing every single person.
Yeah, they killed his wife.
When he drives away,
alive. So he's
but when he drives away, we see her spirit shrouded in red neon, and so does he with this gigantic smile. And the car drives away. Their homeland has become this apocalyptic wasteland. And I'm starting to wonder, was this set up by like a religious figure or whatever? Because they have their own laws of physics. The world that they live in.
Here's my theory on this film. I think that they are lampooning the Catholic Church and their scandals with underage molestation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because the way they kidnap the girls and the way the priests are no-name sort of spiky dudes and such, I think that the bikers represent the priests. I think that the drugs is the religion, and the main preacher guy is basically the government defending them for many, many years to come. And when they see this wasteland, basically they grew up there in this Catholic church, but all these horrible things happened to them. So now what they once had, they were trying to escape by going and living a simple life as an agnostic or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's a clever spotlight style film.
Okay, that was kind of the way I was leaning towards. I wasn't sure if you were feeling the exact same way, because when he talks about
the weapons, right? Think of the weapons. The crossbow. Everything is pointing towards crosses and various Catholic church gestures, right?
The battle axe could basically be a gigantic cross when we think about it. I don't know about the chainsaws. That might just be a stylistic choice.
The chainsaws are just stylistic, but I think what they're trying to do is lampoon the Catholic Church for being creeps for so many years. And not saying that all Catholic priests are terrible, but there are a large selection of them that are bad at points.
Yeah, we
all know they have taken care of that now. I'm sure there's still some there, but I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think the LSD represents like the communion wine, like the first communion and such. So they have these visions. They feel they're right and everything, and that's where I feel they're going with it. And I could be wrong. And I know there's probably some Catholics watching us, but I'm sure you're great people, but there are some bad people in every group of people everywhere.
Yeah, and like when he talked about the themes for Beyond the Black Rainbow, Cosmatos talked a lot about how he hated religious extremism. So there's definitely a lot thrown into there, as well as if Red was chosen by God or chosen by Satan to eliminate all these people, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely a selfish motivation.
And just coming back into the themes of silence throughout this movie, the second half, I can't even remember how many times Nick Cage even opens his mouth. You really feel the sense of loneliness,
Yep.
isolation, and hatred that he's experiencing, especially that great scene in his underwear where he takes out the bottle of vodka for the first time in God knows how long, drinks it, pours it all over his wounds, and screams out of anger, grief, stress, all of those things. It was fucking insane. And he's wearing that tiger shirt too, which also plays into that as well.
Yeah, I think there's also
But
the themes of the psychedelic folk rock is meant to represent like hymns and the church music as well. Like this music that if you're in there, you like it. If not, you think it's horrible and they'll laugh at you, you know?
yeah, let's bring up that musical score too, because that was this is one of the final movies that Icelandic composer Johan Johansson, who created some amazing musical scores, especially with Blade Runner 2049 being one of my favorite examples. He passed away in 2018, I think. And this, in my opinion, is some of the best work that he has ever done. It has that John Carpenter style that
Mhm.
seems half electronic, but also half rock and roll style. And, usually I don't go for action horror movies that have the punk rock aesthetic or really struggle in balancing the tone between action and horror, whether or not you're shooting up zombies and vampires with guns
Yeah.
or if it's just people fighting with chainsaws. You definitely get that in here too, but it's a lot more divided. I like that Cosmatos goes for a psychedelic slash psychological horror in the first half, including a scene that is entirely portrayed through hallucinogenics, and that is one of
Yeah.
the most fucking
Super crazy.
disturbing things I've ever seen in a horror movie. I love that everything is blurry, the audio is completely fucked with. Even when you're sober, it feels like you're on drugs, and when you're on drugs, it feels completely normal. I
It feels
actually
like you're
watched
on
this.
all the drugs.
Yeah, I watched this on weed one time, and you know what? That might have actually taken me out of the experience just
Really? I thought that
because,
would make it better.
yeah, that's exactly why I did it. But I think because depending on how used you are to being on certain substances, that might make you. It made me a lot more calm during the action scenes. And I just sat there and went, oh shit, this was a huge mistake. Like the hallucinogenic side, that part definitely worked to its advantage because all the awkward pauses gives you more anxiety and anticipation as you're waiting for something to happen. And then when Jeremiah tries to entice Mandy and Mandy fights back, which is such a great moment. You really feel sorry for her. It sums her up as a person too. She's very nonchalant, kind, and caring, but she also has her limits and she doesn't bow to anyone, especially after the abuse she suffered from her father. And she knows that if she keeps submitting to people, even if she survives, it's not going to do her any good. So the second viewing made me care a lot more about her as a character. And it also made me realize that it is Andrea Riseborough because she was fucking excellent in Possessor too.
I have, yeah.
You still haven't seen it, have
I
you?
want to talk about the one particular scene that I was like, because I like the opening and I like when she's there, and then when Jeremiah doesn't get what he wants, he burns her alive. This was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like people coming out of the theater were like, what the heck? And like that, and like Nicolas Cage just being like basically nailed to this tree there, and that's why I think there's themes of Catholic things, right?
Yeah, the
'Cause you
barbed
said
wire
the father
looking
abuse.
like
That
the barbed wire looks like Jesus's
there's so
crown
much
of
Catholic
thorns.
imagery in this. I really think that's what this movie is doing. And if that's what they're doing, I mean, more power to them. This movie's freaking sweet.
Yeah.
I own this on Blu-ray. I have since it came out. I love this movie so much. But like the
I'm gonna
burning
have to do
alive
that
scene, that was
too.
like the one scene impactfully, because I'm working on a couple horror features coming up, and that's really I want to go with my career. And I've got a semi-horror sort of post-apocalyptic one I'm working on that I can't say too much about. That I get to direct literally as this debuts, which is exciting because I get to direct. That'll be Friday. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm directing the weekend. But yeah, this scene, like when you told me you could do that on screen and with such passion and emotion and what I felt for the characters, it wasn't just violence with no purpose. It literally fuels the movie. It's the inciting incident. It's not there to be gory because you have to have her die in a brutal way for him to kill everyone else in a brutal way. And so it can speak on the Catholic Church themes it has here. And that scene just blew my actual mind. I'm like, holy crap. Like the first time I saw it was disturbing because I thought, oh, they'll shoot her, you know. But no, they behead her and burn her. That's disturbing. I love it.
I don't remember them doing that to her. I mean, they did that to Jeremiah.
They beheaded the other guy, but just burning a person alive on screen, full view, without showing Nicolas Cage's face, except for a quick, brief moment, is a bold choice.
But what makes his reaction so haunting is that you're just seeing him react. All the music and the sound is drowned out. Yeah. And for me, those scenes are a lot more impactful. There's that Batman movie where the Joker tortures the living shit out of Robin, and it's portrayed through a home movie style because it's the Joker. Why wouldn't he do that?
The animated
and you see
right?
Robin, Return of the Joker, I think. You see Tim struggling more than any character in the show ever has, and you see Batman's beyond scared expressions. You've never seen Batman scared like that ever, because it's not just any kid, it's his kid. And of course, Mark Hamill monologuing to himself in such a glorious way. Mark Hamill is still the best Joker ever for me. Yes. Moments like that are gold because they hold back enough, but they also show you enough at the exact same time. And Cage just screaming without even hearing him is, weirdly enough, one of the best Nicolas Cage screams ever, which, I mean, how often can you say that?
I mean, there is one of the things I always decided, no matter how you do it, no matter what you do, whenever you're writing, if your character needs to get to a certain point in the film, you have to break them. And the more you break them, you know, when we got to the end and he's finally killing the guy, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I want him to murder that guy so bad because of what he did. There's that natural reaction to the slight extremism, but doesn't seem extreme at the end. It seems extreme for the first bit, but you have to break the character before you can truly appreciate it. And that's what they did here. And then he goes, sits and drinks vodka on a toilet in his underwear and a tiger shirt, which is, it made me laugh. Like, there's that stark contrast. And so he goes and visits Bill Duke, and he gets the crossbow, and he finds the first guy by the volcanic rock or whatever, and he shoots him and drags the body. And there's that brutalness, that angerness to this first kill, that he's like, you guys killed my wife. I was happy here. I wasn't bothering you. We were living peaceful. Fuck you. You're all going to die without saying a single word.
And it still has a great sense of humor to it. Like when the first demonic biker looks at him and goes, "You have a death wish. I don't want to talk about it." And then just rips out his hand and throws him down the stairs and somehow kills him. That was probably the weakest kill because they don't really show it, but
drags him.
Let's get to one of the most exhilarating aspect of Mandy.
Oh, do it.
The action scenes. The action scenes are fucking insane. I
love it.
And for a movie on such a low budget, the fact that they do so much practical shit is beyond insane. And one thing that sticks out with this as being an action horror movie is that most action horror movies mainly revolve around using weaponry. And they definitely do here, but there's also more of an emphasis on hand-to-hand combat that feels like much more of a surprise because we've never seen any of these people fight beforehand. So there's some unpredictability because you don't know how skilled of a warrior Red is until he approaches these guys. And there's a certain level of suspense to it because you know he's going to make it out okay, but you just don't know how. You don't know how brutal it's going to get. You don't know how much he's going to struggle in the process. Like when the biker is staring at the car that is burning and he's anticipating Red showing up, but Red has the fucking battle axe and the fight. The fights are filmed in the most steady wide shots you can possibly get that shows each of them executing their moves, formulating their next plan. It looks incredible.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the chainsaw versus the chainsaw.
Yeah, no, I want to talk about that moment. I really want to talk about the chainsaw moment because I watched the trailer and I was like, it looks pretty cool. But then the tag at the end where you see the two chainsaws clash and Nicolas Cage is yelling and they've got the chainsaws and I'm like, I want that. But like, it's not like they have tiny chainsaws. They got the freaking huge chainsaws going on, right? Like, that's insane. They're like swords. And he's crafting a battle axe. Like, there's an A-team sequence where he has to have a building montage.
My God.
This movie is bananas. It's so
That
perfect.
reminds me, there's a story behind the design of the axe. Let me just look it up real quick. Yeah. Oh my God, it is produced by... I had no idea this was produced by Elijah Wood. That's insane. But anyways, the battle axe Red makes is based on the F logo from a metal band called Celtic Frost. And when I heard that, I just sat there and I went, that makes perfect sense, because extreme metal just fits the atmosphere of this, that I'm assuming takes place in the 80s based on the clothing, the vehicles.
He's a veteran, it says here, from the
83. So like, he was in Vietnam. He's seen some dark and brooding shit. And when dude faces up to these bikers and kills them, not swiftly, but with enough skill and enough motivation, because dude really is that pissed off. You learn a lot about his backstory just by slicing and dicing these guys to shreds. And he's so good at improvising too. That bit with the chainsaws finds a way to subvert expectations, because long story short, he doesn't technically kill them with the chainsaw, but he does kill them with technique and with perseverance. It's the same thing. It's the same reason Jackie Chan wins a fight. He doesn't win because he's better. He wins because he perseveres all the way through, and he's so dedicated to his mission that he's not going to give up. So when he picks up the chain, lassos the guy, and just shoves him into his own chainsaw, that gives you exactly what you wanted, but also subverts it at the exact same time. I fucking love this movie. It's
so crazy. Like, and he fights a bunch of the people. He fights the chemist. He fights the ladies. Like, I just want you to go, and I want you to watch this. I don't want to spoil all the fights, but the finale is so satisfying. He goes to this very strange temple place, and he just kills the dude. Straight up murders this man. Like, he has no sympathy. He just murders the man. And that's it. That's the movie.
And I like that Jeremiah goes back and forth from being like begging for mercy to not submitting whatsoever. Yeah. It really shows just what a pathetic individual he is in both sides of the things. You know that he's doing this to get power off of other people, but there's that moment where he realizes he's had absolutely nothing and is going to go out the exact same way Mandy did, by just refusing to suck up to anyone because he thinks he doesn't deserve it.
Chops off his head, right?
Dude fucking squishes his
the eyeballs, yeah. Like, there's just such anger and rage.
You wouldn't know, because I didn't like how the light keeps drawing in and out. Like, it was great for a few scenes, but when they keep doing it as he's killing him, I just thought, okay, this is stretched out for way too long. And that is one problem that's stuck with me still. There are some scenes and some shots that just drag for a little too much, but it's not all that often. And even then, most of them are in the first half, where they're building up just how awkward and uncomfortable of an atmosphere that they're in.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking here, and I was just curious with Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood also produced The Color Out of Space. This is Elijah Wood, Nicolas Cage double feature. Crazy. I love where Elijah Wood is going with his career, because he's got one about a serial killer coming up, No Man of God. Of course he does. One about World War II horror and the Jewish community called It Was Cruel. He's got one, The Man with Kaleidoscope Eyes, about LSD in the 1960s, with Peter Fonda and such. Like, I just love I love this. He's going in such a great direction. Like, Elijah Wood must be one of the coolest people on the planet to talk to. And I mean, the other one, he did like an animated sci-fi movie with elements there. Arch Enemy in 2020, he produced that one. It's got a crazy looking poster.
Is that the one with the True Blood dude?
Maybe. It's got but either way.
That is. I forgot that was even out. I wanted to see that.
But either way, like, his career is so interesting. Like, it's not boring by any means. It's like exactly where you want to be. Like, I mean, dude took what he got off Lord of the Rings and he is running crazy with this. I love Mandy. I love the chainsaw fight. I love everything about this film. I think it's probably one of the strangest, most weirdest, perfect films I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I mean, you don't have like I love the main guy. But like Jeremiah Sand is crazy here. Nicolas Cage is awesome. Andrew Riseborough is perfect. Bill Duke is a wonderful little addition to it. And then everyone else along the way, just these crazy alien spike. I don't know who they are. They're doing great. That's what I know. I love this movie.
They're obviously just stunt guys, but they do an incredible job. Because I mean, it's not even their real voices. You can't even understand what they're saying half the time. But that just makes them even creepier. You never see their faces, which makes you wonder if the LSD has transformed their entire bodies to look like demons. Because I mean, they've got the horns. Like the spikes on their leather jackets are basically demonic horns, if we're putting it bluntly. They're the horn that summons them looks exactly like a devil's horn.
Yeah, I mean, the description of this movie is pitch perfect too. The enchanted lives of a couple in a secluded forest are brutally shattered by a nightmarish hippie cult and their demon biker henchmen, propelling a man spiraling into a surreal rampage of vengeance. Like, there's no better way to describe that in big words. So good.
Oh, one of these days we got to rent a theater and just show it, because that would be
we just got to do the double feature of two Cage movies, Mandy and something.
Yeah,
I mean, I would do Color Out of Space, but we've seen that recently.
I wouldn't go out of my way to do that, to be honest.
I really like that one. I mean, it's not perfect, but I really like it. But oh my goodness. So which I like Mandy better than Color Out of Space, but as a double feature, I rate this a 10 out of 10. It builds, it's perfect. It's Nicolas Cage. I don't think you can get a more perfect Nicolas Cage double feature.
I would give this a 4 point. I would give Mandy a 4.5 out of 5. And I gotta be honest, I would give Color Out of Space a 2.5 out of 5, because they rush the scares and they draw out the family dilemmas that are extremely simple a little too much.
But imagine how hyped you would be if you saw them both back to back, like I watched them. You watch Color Out of Space knowing you're going into Mandy. You're like, yes.
Yeah, it technically wasn't a double feature for me. I watched Color Out of Space in the afternoon because that was the only time I had, and I knew I had to watch Mandy at night because it's just one of those movies where there's no other way to do it. But because everyone else in my house goes to bed at such an earlier time, I'd have to watch it on my laptop because I can't wake anyone up with this shit. So there were some viewing problems that made it a little tough to appreciate it as I was watching it. But the great thing about Mandy is the more you think about it, the more fucking awesome it turns into.
Yeah. It's a crazy movie.
I'm totally buying. You know what? I'm probably going to order this on my Amazon once I'm done recording this.
Yeah, I went to Walmart and bought it the day it came out because I'm Josh and I like Mandy.
I did the exact same thing with Nobody as soon as the local Walmart opened.
Well, the Walmart was I just happened to be there taking a buddy grocery shopping. So
that works.
I was just like, y'all got Mandy. Let's go. But yeah, crazy double feature. We will announce our double feature next week, but I have a really cool idea for next week.
I bet you do.
But yeah,
and this couldn't have come out at a better time now that
Pig
Pig's
is
being
coming
released
out
in theaters.
And we missed Willy's Wonderland because that one no one was playing it and we'd have to rent it. So
yeah, and you know what? It would probably be cheap enough to rent on YouTube. I've done that with a few things lately.
I've got to see this strange something. I didn't even watch the trailer. I just saw the poster and I said, I'm in.
Yeah,
like,
and
that's it. That's all I need.
When Stuckman was talking about Pig, he was talking about how with Mandy, Color Out of Space, and Willy's Wonderland, Nicolas Cage really is experiencing yet another comeback because dude's been through this once or twice now. And Stuckman said he liked Willy's Wonderland, so I'm gonna take that as a sign that whatever we think is gonna be good about it, it probably will.
I mean, it looks like a crazy Five Nights at Freddy's thing about a man trapped in a theme park.
That's what is Five Nights at Freddy's, anyways?
It's a guy. It's basically you have so much power on a security camera, and you have to look at all the animals before they get into the room, and you have to see how long you can survive. You'll eventually die if you don't look at the stuffed animals. They can move. That's the idea.
I don't know. That kind of reminded me of that Peter Jackson movie, Meet the Feebles, but like in a haunted house.
I don't know. I really don't need to know anything about it to watch it. It's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Like when someone told me Nicolas Cage was hanging out with a pig, I said, "Yeah, let's go." Like that was my whole thought process. I'm like, you don't need to pitch me. Like there's very few movie stars.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Everyone's saying the same thing about Pig. It's not Mandy. It's not Color Out of Space. It's more in the vein of
Nicolas Cage to talk to a pig.
It's more in the vein of it's apparently more in the vein of Joe, but Joe was great, so I got no problem with that.
Like there's certain like movie stars are sort of dead these days.
Kind of,
yeah. Like even with Meryl Streep, you can't get people out for every move. But you tell me that Nicolas Cage is in a film, I am there. Like that is how simple it is. Like, yeah, we put Nicolas Cage in this movie. Cool, I'll be there. Do you know what it's about? Nah, I'm just going. Like it's sort of like how Tom Hanks used to have that draw, and even him now doesn't have the huge draw.
Yeah, but I would still do. I would still go see.
Yeah. Like Tom
okay, not I wouldn't go see Greyhound. Well, maybe I would. I don't know.
But like, you know, there's certain actors for you that you would go see anything they do, and I will go see literally anything. Nicolas Cage could stare at me for an hour and a half on screen artistically while things burn in the background, and he maybe sings an occasional song. I would watch that. Like he could sing "Don't Stop Believing" while the Chicago fire footage plays, and he's bald.
What?
I don't know. I'd watch it. His man is artistic. He's like he's like if Shia LaBeouf. Like this is what Shia LaBeouf is gonna be like in like when he's 60.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Shia LaBeouf is gonna be this strange, weird guy who does all these movies and you can't explain it, but you watch them regardless. It's true. I mean, look at this man. He put a paper bag on his head. He did Nymphomaniac. Like, this is a strange, weird, artful dude, and he does strange things.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, if
like
he told me that it was his son, I would believe it.
He wrote his own life story and played his own dad.
Yeah, like that's a thing Nicolas Cage would do. It's totally
potentially. I'm surprised he didn't ask Nicolas Cage to play his own dad. Like he told his own father, "Hey, Mel Gibson's gonna play you." He seriously lied to his dad to get him to sign a permission slip for that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think Nicolas Cage is cool. I like this movie.
Oh,
like
100%.
Color Out of Space. Just so much.
Nick Cage is just the perfect cult star.
Oh, yeah. Like if they ever remade Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I'm sure people would outcry, there's only one actor for any role. All the roles. Just put Nicolas Cage in every role and see what happens. You know, people would watch that.
Okay, now you're making me picture. Now you're making me picture Nick Cage on Tim Curry's body. I'm not sure I want to.
Nick Cage on all the bodies.
No, just Frankenfurter.
But like Nicolas Cage is so weird. He's the only one who could pull off a remake like that. Like I have respect for that film, but I've seen it so many times because I project it. So
well, I mean, they did remake it for one of those. You know how they were doing the live shows like Peter Pan Live?
Yeah, but they also
Hairspray,
remade The Sound of Music with Carrie Underwood, and no one gave a shit either. So
that is absolutely true. I didn't see that one. I only saw Hairspray in full, and I saw clips of The Wiz because I'm a big Hairspray fan, and they did a good job with that. And The Wiz was decent. It was obviously better than the Diana Ross version, but that's not hard to do.
I mean, I'm just surprised that Nicolas Cage hasn't played Jesus yet in a film, but you know, that's my final thoughts. Tyler, where can we find you?
Okay, you can find the link to my channel in the description below. I have reviews up for Black Widow, for Nobody, and I'm going to be having reviews for Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain, and Cruella coming up very soon.
So I'm gonna love you till you hate me. I'm gonna love you like a Black Widow, baby. Yes, 2016.
What song's that from?
Azalea.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't listen to Iggy Azalea.
I don't know. Are you into pop? No, never mind.
No, God no.
Check out all of Tyler's reviews. check out Elisa's reviews of the first season of Never Have I Ever from Netflix. I've got a series. I watched all 3 Fear Street films. I have a lot of thoughts. I want to make a Netflix movie because I know all their cliches at this point, but I think there's some really good stuff in there. No, seriously, I can make Kissing Booth 4 in my sleep. Like,
I know.
Hard.
I know.
Teenage drama. Oh, look, they have to kiss. Will they? Won't they? Okay, we're done. Even Netflix horror is becoming very, very predictable. They're following. But regardless,
I will say this: I want to check out their movie Gunpowder Milkshake because it kind of
that one too.
Because I mean, you got Karen Gillan and Lena Headey as gun-wielding assassins trying to protect the little girl from My Spy, and Angela Bassett and Michelle Yeoh are there. I'm just sat there. I'm like, okay, this is a John Wick Atomic Blonde Birds of Prey ripoff, but I am so in on that
100%.
Because it's incredibly focused on the action, the thing that we want to see the most.
And I will be putting up my rant on why Tomorrow War is crap, with a few great action sequences and wasting one of the greatest talents of our time, Yvonne Strahovski from Chuck. Yeah, she's really good.
Okay,
this one.
All right.
I had high hopes. I actually disliked this movie more than the Snyder Cut and Army of the Dead combined. Like, it's bad. Like, it's crap. It's crap on a page.
I can't take you seriously on that, and I haven't even seen either one of them. There was actual effort put into it.
Well, and there was effort put into
even though, regardless of what you think of here's the thing: whatever you think of Zack Snyder and the way he films things, I am always going to champion filmmakers having more control over the studio. So it's a victory in a way. It's a loss for.
Well, I'm saying Tomorrow War is worse than those movies. Like, it's one of the worst movies I've seen ever. I literally lost my shit on this movie and walked out twice on it. My wife was sitting there like, it's okay.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say about it.
Logic doesn't exist. That's something that pisses me off.
It's time travel. It's not like you didn't know that going in.
Okay, here, I'm just gonna give you a little taste of my rant real quick. When
you're please don't. I want to be surprised.
Okay, will you be surprised? So, yeah, check out my Tomorrow War. We got a video every day. Check out the Josh and Tyler show. We are in the midst of making a feature film right now for 3 weeks. So we've been sparsely uploading, but once we finish that up, we'll get back to it. So we'll get to that. Tyler, say something awesome.
I never misfiled anything. Not once, not one time.
There we go. All right, everyone. That is it from the Josh and Tyler show. I am Josh. That is Tyler with 3 Fs for extra fucking future fantastic. You know, I don't know. Maybe as 2. I don't know. Numbers are hard. Tyler hates me, but we're done the show. We will see you next time. I'm going to stop.